Okay, well, hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel, and today I am joined by Dane. So, hello Dane. Thanks for
Oh,
chatting to me today. Um, let's start off by can you introduce yourself and what you do? Tell us all about yourself.
okay. Well, where to start, I guess. So my name is Dane Cobain, and I'm an indie author. I write in a bunch of different genres. I guess my current one at the time of filming, I have my new novel Meat is coming out soon, hopefully in time for Halloween. Previously, my more recent books have been these kind of quirky detective novels following a character called James Lightfold. So that's Driven and the Tower Hill Terror. But I've been writing for years. I write a bit of everything, really, non-fiction, some poetry here and there. I'm also a booktuber. I make a bit of music, as Emma does as well. And actually, that's about it, really. Big reader. That's pretty much me, I think.
Brilliant.
Have a cat called Biggie.
I think because lovely Biggie. So have I? Have I? I'm so brain dead today. Honestly, it's just the worst. So I've read two of your books. I've read Driven and Former.ly. And yeah, they're these sort of crime thriller type books. And tell us a little bit about Meat, which is, as you say, is coming up soon. That one sounds really interesting.
Yeah, so I guess it's almost my foray into straight up horror. I've written horror and stuff before, but also this is the longest of my books to date. So it's about 450 odd pages, and it's pretty Stephen King influenced as well. But basically, the premise is it takes place on a factory farm. So it's set on a factory farm in the UK, and we actually don't really have any farms like this because it's much more of an American phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
So I got around that by his post-Brexit, basically, and then you can get around fewer because that's one of the issues actually around Brexit that a lot of people didn't talk about is a lot of the stuff governing veal crates and things like these, and foie gras, and a lot of these sort of practices that happen on factory farms, and most of what British farms are covered by was EU legislature. So that's kind of where I took it, a post-Brexit future where the UK has gone much more along the American model with these massive factory farms. And it's a very timely novel because it follows a disease outbreak and basically follows the group of workers at the factory farm. They all get kind of quarantined inside the factory farm with all the animals as well, who are all displaying various symptoms of this disease. And it kind of goes from there, really.
It sounds amazing, and it's very it's coming out at just the right time.
I've looked out because I started writing it, or at least the first sort of very first work I did on it was about 2015 as well. So I obviously had no way of knowing that that we'd be living in the world we're living in today. And so
you
just
know
the fact
something.
as well, just the fact that it's ready at this point as well, because as I say, it's probably been 5 years in the making. So if I'd started it 2 years later, it wouldn't have been finished until 2 years down the line from now, and everyone would have just said, "Oh, he's just taken that from COVID or whatever." Although it did work out as well, so that when I went back through and did some of the editing, I could actually add some stuff that's happened more recently, and because I think to begin with, the disease was it was a variant of swine flu basically. So now it's hybrid super variant of swine flu plus COVID-19 that's then mutated by animals as well, and just created this horrible disease basically.
I suppose that's the benefit of publishing indie, so that you can make these little changes right at the last minute.
Yeah, and this one has been very last minute because my goal I set myself was to try and get it out in time for Halloween because again it's a horror novel, so and I knew it's going to be ready around that time. But just so I had some beta readers who read through it, and one of them gave me more what I would say was basically almost a developmental edit that I got back about 3 weeks ago, and I'm like, oh my god, okay. So I'm just trying to tweak as much of the stuff that I can do. It was all useful stuff because her ex partner used to be in the army as well, and actually she got him to give it a read. So he was giving me some good advice on firearm stuff. One of the things as well, there's a moment in it, and he said, "This is very unlikely, but technically possible." And I know it is because I watched them. They recreated it on the Mythbusters. That's where I got it from because they were saying "Is this even possible?" And they managed to create the perfect set of conditions where it would happen. But possibly it's not implausible, I guess. It's just extremely unlikely. But
creative.
Most novels have bits like that, don't they? Yeah, and life does as well, you know.
So, how did you first get into writing?
Well, that's a good question. I guess for me, it goes back to music because, you know, when I was going back all the way back to when I was, you know, 5, 6, 7 years old, my dad used to play in a pub band, and that's also where I get a lot of my love for, like, you know, the Beatles and like 1950s and 1960s stuff like Eddie Cochran and, you know, all those guys. And so, yeah, I used to go along to the gigs that he played at, and then I used to like write my own songs, which were basically just the day's pop songs, but with my own lyrics. So I remember doing one. There was one of the Earth song by Michael Jackson, and it was about me and this kid called Ashley, who was my friend, and we both used to get bullied. So the lyrics were like, "What about Ashley? What about Dane?" That's all I can remember of it, though. But,
I love that.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I used to have like these literal notebooks of all these lyrics that I'd written that were just basic. I guess it's almost like what Weird Al Yankovic does, except my lyrics weren't very funny. But yeah, then I got to like 13, 14 and started to learn to play the guitar. And then because of that, I could start to like just make pretty simple songs and lyrics and stuff. And then I got into journaling. And then when I was about 16, 17, I started writing like my first full-length novel. And then haven't really looked back since, really.
That's amazing. And so, because you write full-time, don't you?
Yes, yeah. But self-employed, so I don't. It's not all fun stuff, but some of it is. So I'm actually at this weird point at the moment where because about 3 different projects that I had on were book projects, whether it was editing or I almost call it like working a bit of magic, because it's kind of a cross between an edit and like in bits it'll be rewrites where I'm just like, I'll just rewrite that, it'll be quicker just to rewrite it. But about 2 or 3 of those projects all finished at the same time, so suddenly I'm kind of like, oh, I've got nothing to do now. Again, one of the perks of being self-employed is that I'll just spend more time working on my books, and then again maybe next month more stuff will come in, so I'll do less of my own writing time and stuff. So yeah.
I seem to remember you made a video actually about what you do as a freelance writer, so I'll link that below, because it's very interesting, the different projects.
I should do an updated one actually.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Maybe I'll do that. Change a lot. So your books that you've published, some of them are self-published, but a couple you've traditionally published as well, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, they're sort of okay. Well, I can give you a little, because it's kind of interesting the route I got into it. So I mean, again, as I said, when I was sort of 16, 17, I wrote my first novel. It was called Annie. It will never be published because. Not right. So I looked back at it recently and was like, I could rewrite it and stuff, but there's also a lot of stuff that like it's some of it's subject matter that I don't really want to touch on because it's too risky. Like you have to get it right, you know. And I definitely didn't when I was like 16. And yeah, it's not worth the hassle of going back now. But so I'd written a bunch of different like books, and I'd had some of them printed, like, and just, you know, print on demand things just so I could give them to, you know, my mum and stuff. And then yeah, when I was about 25, so yeah, about 5-6 years ago, this was after I'd launched my book blog, so I was running that, and I got to know a small press called Book Trope, and they actually like let me know that they'd opened up for submissions and were like, oh, maybe you'd like to write about it on your blog. And so I submitted to them, and they picked up my first book, which was No Rest for the Wicked. And they had like they called it hybrid publishing. So basically, it was almost you could apply to join Book Trope as you know, you could be a designer or an editor or you know, a writer or whatever, and you sort of submit your portfolio, and they just match people up to projects, and then you then sort of negotiate a royalty split. So everybody's kind of, you know, putting in for free essentially. And so the publisher then, they'll cover like the initial costs and whatnot and a bit of marketing. But unfortunately, they stopped trading. They didn't go bust, because what kind of happened is they were doing really, really well, and then it sort of plateaued, and then they were sort of going back down, and they kind of realised, if we get out now, we'll break even kind of thing. But as well, because they had this big kind of community around them, so that's actually my editor, Pamelise Harris. That's how I know her. She was through Book Trope. And then Dragonball Press, which is run by a woman called Gwen Gades, and she picked up No Rest for the Wicked after Book Trope went out. She kind of picked it up just to republish it. And then since then, I've kind of mostly self-published, but I have sort of submitted stuff here and there. And I was lucky enough to get involved with Encircle Publications, and that was pretty much a blind submission, you know. And I sent them Driven, the first of the Lightfold books, and it was actually after it had already been released as well. And they picked it up and did like a re-release of it, and then so they then published the Tower Hill Terror. So now Encircle for me are kind of, they're the home of the Lightfold series, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, Dragon Moon, they've got No Rest for the Wicked, and then it also gives me a little bit of leeway now, so I can resubmit stuff to either of those presses as well, or again, I can kind of use them as bargaining chips. I can reach out to other presses and say, you know, look, I'm already published with these guys, and I've done some self-published stuff. But I do quite like self-publishing as well, just because of the creative control you get, and it's just easier as well. And also it slows down the process to look for publishers and stuff as well. So again, with Meat, because it's been 5 years in the making, I don't want to sit on it for another 2 years until I find a publisher. You know, I'd rather do what I did with Driven and release it myself, and then maybe in a year's time I'll find somebody who wants to republish it or whatever. So that's kind of the goal there with it.
So for you, does it just depend on each project what feels right?
Yeah, probably. And again, because with publishers, I mean, and I think this is the mistake I made when I first started out, was that I just basically got a list of publishers, and even then I wrote in quite a few different genres, but I'd just query every publisher. I'd find some way of submitting some manuscript to each publisher, whereas I think now I'm much more selective. So it'd be maybe I'd query half a dozen publishers, and if I didn't get anything back from them, I'd just, you know, move on to the next book, I suppose.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That it's just something where you can pick and choose what's suitable and what you feel like doing, and if you get an offer and make all those decisions. It sounds like a good way to work.
I think as well, one of the things that self-publishing has enabled is that it's enabled a lot of these smaller publishing houses. So I mean, Dragonball Press is literally just Gwen, the lady who runs it. But to be fair, she has been running it since I think 1991. So that's pretty cool. Encircle Publications, I think, is 6 or 7 people or something. So it's not your big random house or whatever. But for a while, you know, back I guess in the 70s and 80s and stuff, it was a lot harder for smaller publishers to come out because, you know, there wasn't things like Amazon KDP and Ingram Spark and all this stuff. And even if you did print stuff, you're going to find it harder to, you know, there weren't companies that would just do a print run of $10 for you. You'd have to do a minimum of 500 or whatever. So, you know, a lot of people talk about how self-publishing has opened things up for authors, but it has also just been great for smaller and indie presses. And a lot of those focus on specific types of books. So, or maybe representation. So you can get, you know, a purely Muslim, you know, maybe a Muslim fiction, an Islamic fiction print or something like that, you know. So it's great for everyone, I think. Gives everyone more choice. Yeah,
definitely. Very interesting. So, like me, as you said, you do a little bit of booktube and authortube. How long have you been running your channel? Because when I started mine, you were already here.
Yeah. When did you start yours?
It's probably been about 2.5, 3 years, something like that.
You probably weren't much after me then.
Oh, okay.
So I actually don't remember. But part of the problem is as well, because I can't just go on my YouTube and look at the create date, because it's just been... I think it's 2006 I created it. That was back when I was a kid watching, you know, music videos and stuff on there. I think even my first upload on the channel that's still there, it's a clip of Dave Gorman's Important Astrology Experiment that I uploaded just so I could show to my friend and be like, this is hilarious. And I uploaded it so long ago. And I think the BBC have clearly just at this point, or whoever owns the copyright, they're just like, oh, well, it doesn't matter now, you know. But I think it probably was about 3.5 years ago, something like that. But I've been watching for a lot longer, and I think I did a lot of what a lot of typical people do. When I saw a lot of booktube videos, but it was mostly just YA, and it was, you know, that kind of crowd was all I really saw. And so, in fact, it's Todd the Librarian is the reason why I started booktube, because before I was doing booktube, I was doing little weekly writing update videos that were terrible as well, because it was just the same thing every week. It was I've done, you know, it was basically I've done 3,000 words on this, and I've done this, and I've done that. But there wasn't anything any news or anything like that, because it was just me constantly writing. But Todd used to comment on my videos, and then I started watching Todd's channel. And then because I saw the way that Todd films as well, I was like, oh, I can do that. And so that when I sort of went ahead and joined the community as like a creator rather than a viewer. But it also was a big advantage for me because a lot of the people, you know, that I'd already got this little circle of booktubers, they didn't necessarily know me, but I'd been watching them for 3 or 4 years. And so I could just start commenting on their videos, and I kind of quite quickly, you know, got a little bit of traction. Whereas I think, really, unless you do the booktube newbie tag, I think you can be shouting void for quite a while, you know. So I was lucky in that respect, I think.
Yeah. And so your motivation for starting the channel was that you'd just been watching it and wanted in, or?
Yeah. I mean, at the back of my mind, there's always like, yeah, it'll help me promote my books and stuff. But really, I actually probably should promote them more. And like you mentioned, AuthorTube, I don't really do AuthorTube. I watch it sometimes, but I don't really do that many videos of it myself, you know. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of get involved in the discussion, really, I think. And like, because I had a book blog, well, I still do. I mean, it's literally just, I just review each book I read. But so I was already kind of used to creating like bookish content and stuff. So it just seemed like the natural thing to do. And then also once I got started, it, you know, got kind of addictive, really.
Weren't you one of the top reviewers on Goodreads or something like that?
Yeah, they've changed their thing now, so you can't see. But I don't know exactly how they do it, because I think I am still like 93 in the UK or something. But I think it's more algorithmic now. So before it was, I think I was like the most prolific. So it wasn't like, because they had different charts for like the most books read, the most reviews posted, and that was the one I was on, the most reviews posted. And then I think it was like the most liked reviews. So obviously for people who are, you know, particularly popular with writing their reviews. And I think Jean from Bookish Thoughts on BookTube, she was like 20 for most liked in the UK. But yeah, they've kind of got rid of that now, and it's a shame. And another thing they got rid of, they used to have a chart that showed your top authors by the number of books read, and they've just got rid of it. And that would be so useful for me, because I have no idea really. I mean, I know it used to be Terry Pratchett.
Agatha Christie.
Well, I think he's probably overtaken him.
Yeah.
But at the time, like 9th or something. But then, as I say, they got rid of it, so I don't know.
So lately you've been buying a lot of books and sort of selling them on and all that kind of thing, which has been interesting. So do you sort of just keep an eye out for lots of books and then...
Well, I can show you. So one of my charity shop purchases today, I got these. So these are the Agatha Christie Crime Club hardback editions. And they're like...
Oh, they're nice.
They're beautiful, and these were $1.50 each, so I just bought all of them because I had some of these and I sold them for about £8-10 each.
Right.
So like those I just picked up. There was that massive, I think I called it an unnecessarily large eBay haul, and that was some guy again. He just posted like a job lot on eBay of job lot of books, and I mean because this is the thing. A lot of people list 200 plus books or whatever, but it's obviously usually collection only. And this guy had put up like £10 postage or whatever, so I was like, oh, I'll put a bid on. And then I won it for like, I think I won it for like £48 plus £12 delivery or something. And then he dropped them all off at my house, because he was like, if I actually posted these to you, it would cost me more to pay. But he's really hoping for a lot more from them. But a few are like already sold for about £10 each. And then also I got about 40 of those that I added to my own collection, because there was loads of Asimov. There was a bunch of Philip K. Dick as well. So that's kind of what I've been doing. And so my kind of rule for myself is I don't buy books unless there are some in there that I want. But I'm quite happy to, if I see a job lot of 10 Stephen King books for 20 quid or something, and there's one in there that I haven't read, I'll probably buy it, because then I'll just sell the others on, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's also just one of those things, a bit like how I started with BookTube. I was just like, well, I'm just going to get sort of started with it and see how it go. I started listing books because I got to the point when I have so many in my house that it was no longer enjoyable to grow my collection. It became a pain.
It's a threat to Biggie.
Sorry?
It's a threat to Biggie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it was just growing and growing, and I want to move house at some point, hopefully to save up and hopefully put a deposit down to buy somewhere. But So in the back of my mind as well, I'm just there like, it's going to be such a pain to move all of these books. And so I started just getting rid of a lot of the ones that I just knew I wasn't going to read again and stuff. And it's kind of got to the point now where the only ones that I'm 100% keeping are ones that I think are either irreplaceable or like, for example, I've got a Chronicle of the Year 1989 that my mum gave to me for like Christmas 1990 something, because it's my birth year, you know. So like things like that are obviously irreplaceable. But even say like Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials trilogy, like I'm not too bothered about getting rid of those, because for a start, if I reread, I'll reread via audio, and like they are my favourite books, but most of my book collection anyway, like they're just random copies of stuff. So I'm kind of downsizing now, hoping I can again reinvest some of that money maybe, and then hopefully in the future I'll buy really nice editions, but maybe just have one bookcase of really nice editions just of the books that I love, you know. So I think quality over quantity, that's become the new thing
now. So how about your musical life lately?
Well, obviously there's nothing much happening, is there? But
no.
well, I did get to play a gig last month at the Arts Centre, which was really fun, because that's actually probably one of my favourite gigs I've played, because I sort of arranged the lineup. So we were first on, and then everybody after was all people who I'd picked. It was at the Arts Centre, so it's like my home venue. And even because during lockdown, me and Dave, who I'm in the ilk with, we probably made about 40, 50 videos throughout lockdown, because we just dual screen like we are now. So whoever's leading the song would play the song, and then the other person would just, listen to it on headphones and record themselves playing along with it. But that meant that by the time we could actually practice in person, we'd actually got a few new covers. We'd got some new songs as well. And because we'd been recording separately too, so we'd got probably 4 new original songs that we'd recorded totally separately, and we could just sit down together and start playing because we both knew the parts. And for me, that was exciting, because for some of my songs, I've done some lead guitar parts for them as well. And I've not done that before, because I don't know why, because I've been playing guitar for like 15 years, but I'm very much like a chords and vocals man.
Yeah, it's a different skill.
But also, because we've done some stuff before, and Dave's put like lead guitar parts on my songs, and which, I'm fine. I'm also there like, well, if he can, surely I can as well. And so it makes sense for me to at least try. So, and again, because during lockdown there wasn't much to do, so yeah, figured out some lead guitar parts, and seemed to go down well.
Mind you, your Sunday night sessions were fun that you were doing over on your channel.
Yeah. I stopped doing those because it started feeling too much like work. So the first few were a lot of fun, and then it got to a point where I've got to go and play some music again. But I was thinking the other day actually of maybe doing another one, but I might do like a one-off one, or maybe again, if Dave would be up for doing one, but we can do it on my YouTube.
Yeah.
Just between the two of us. In fact, that's a bad idea, because we both do solo stuff as well. So we could even do a 45-minute set together, maybe like 20 minutes solo each or something, and then another 45-minute set, So
yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. When you can't get out and play in person, it's nice to kind of use whatever you can. I never got around to doing anything like that, because I messed up my internet basically for the first at least 2 months of lockdown, because it turned out I'd cut through the cable with shears.
Right, okay.
In the end, we figured it out. But it's nice to be able to do that. So another facet of what you do, then you also have a radio show.
Yes.
On Wickham Sound.
Yes. Oh, it's finished now. It's a weekly radio show called The Arts Show, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. on Wickham Sound, which is my local radio station. It is also on like Spotify, and it's coming to iTunes finally. I actually thought it was already on there, but apparently not. But I did get a confirmation from Apple. So I have a different guest on each week, and I don't know, I'm on number 27 or number 28 now, so I'm starting to scrape the barrel a little bit with guests, and not in like a quality way or anything, because people do keep coming up as well, and there are sort of some people who are in the back of my mind, like there are about 4 actually, who I know are going to make really good interviews, but also they like do things. So like they'll put on events and stuff. So I'm kind of waiting until they've got something specific to promote that I can talk to them. but yeah, so sort of scheduling can be a pain, and it does. Yeah. So it's all pre-recorded. But I mean, if you imagine, it's basically like trying to create a 1-hour booktube video a week. You know, it's insane consuming.
Yeah,
there's just so many different facets to it, because so there's the weekly guest, and you know, if whatever reason I don't speak to somebody in time or whatever, or like this week's one, I spoke to him on, I think, Sunday night, so that only gave me Monday to, you know, get it edited and finished. But also because I try and play local music, and quite often I just discover stuff because I follow a lot of people on YouTube as well, like local musicians. So sometimes I'm all right, but sometimes it's getting towards like the end of the weekend, and I'm like, I need 3 more local. I go on Facebook and I'm like posting in the groups, being like, please email me music, and also recording my bit as well. So those are the really 3 elements. I need to get the interview done, my own actual part of the show, and then sort out all the music, and then edit it all together as well. So doing that once a week, it's challenging, but I enjoy doing it. So.
Are your guests always writers?
No, I have a mix. The one this week was a musician, so, and also some are from Wickham and some are from further field as well, and some like sort of used to be from Wickham and that kind of thing. But it's mostly been, I would say, mostly musicians and writers. I would say I've had a filmmaker on. One of the times I interviewed another one of the hosts of Wickham Sound as well, to just get a feel for, like, you know, radio presenting, that sort of thing. One of the people actually who I'm waiting for, so she's doing the book Sewing Bee, and she's called Juliet, and her company's the Tired Dressmaker. In fact, I don't think I've got it, but my mask that I've got, my really cool face mask, she made that.
Oh, cool.
So she's one of the ones who I'm waiting till a little bit closer to her event, but she'll be a really interesting one. But generally, I just try and speak to people who I think are interesting, you know, and who can have an interesting conversation. So, I mean, some of the people I've had, like, aren't even you wouldn't really call them creatives or whatever. Like, one of them was just my friend Neil, who he hosts a lot of events and stuff. But I mean, he dabbled with stand-up comedy for a bit, but other than that, like, he's not a particularly like creative guy. I don't want to sound like I'm insulting him, but you know what I mean.
No, I know what you mean.
Some of the crazy artists and stuff I've had on, and you know, so but it's nice to have that nice little mix of, you know, different people, and you know, just to cover different arts and culture bits, really.
And cool that you're able to put those up on your channel as well as you say, they're on Spotify and iTunes. And
yeah, they're quite good about that. But I mean, I guess they see that it helps promote them as well. So you know, everybody benefits, really.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm a big fan of local radio. I think they put a lot of work in, and you know, do a lot for the community. So yeah, I really like.
Well, by me, there's also Marlow FM, which is, I think, you know, 4 miles away or something. So there's actually, like, there are places where there's overlap between 2 different local community radio stations, which, you know, that's great, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Always a good thing. So what is next for you, writing-wise or creative-wise? What are you up to?
Okay, well, so I've got this problem at the moment where I'm writing stuff faster than I can edit it. So I've actually had back from my editor, Pam. She sent me, it's called Scarlet Sin, and I just calling it like selected stories and songs, basically. So it's got some short stories in there, and just like the lyrics and chords for like my first 3 albums. I mean, they're just all home recorded albums, but you know, but that I've been working on, because that's another one I can just self-release, probably like spring next year or something. It shouldn't, I mean, I've got any wood to touch, there's the door. It shouldn't take too much work, but I bet it will do. But then after that, I finished writing a novel called Monsters of Rock, which is, it's Lord of the Rings meets Spinal Tap is how I've been selling it.
That sounds amazing.
It's set in our world, and this band of actual, you know, the lead singer's a dwarf, they've got a troll, an elf, a vampire on the drums. The Dark Lord is the record executive, so he runs his record empire from his ivory tower with his army of orcs and stuff. But it's in world, but everyone just thinks they're a bit like Slipknot, where it's just all the acts or whatever. So it's kind of like, in fact, it's probably like magical surrealism, if that's a thing. So that's the next one to go off to edit, but I haven't even looked at it since I finished writing it. And I'm also currently writing Lightfold novel number 3, which it's actually kind of quite relevant to a lot of stuff that's happening recently, because it's basically about police corruption. There's like an old boys club. It's called Boys in Blue, and the Boys in Blue are this like old boys club that kind of losing its power now. But back in the day, they used to have all the highest up spots in the police and the army, and like in the press as well. And so there's like a different kind of case, I guess, because previously it's been much more like, you know, a murder victim case, where this is like big old conspiracy at the heart of government case.
Sounds very cool.
Yeah, I'm about 2/3 of the way through it. And the only problem is I've, you know, when you're writing something and you go off your outline a bit, I've got far off at the point that I think I'm just going to totally rewrite the ending and just replan a new ending.
Well, why not?
But the good news is like I'm very happy with everything that's happened so far, and if anything, it's been that the characters have taken me by surprise a bit. There are also, I want to go back in and add like a few more moments of like high tension and stuff as well. So far, it's been very big on like the intrigue and like the mystery and kind of getting to the heart of it. But I realise, apart from really how it starts and how it ends, throughout the middle, there's kind of this constant sense of threat, but actually they shouldn't really be feeling it, because they don't really see anything that shows that the threat's there, you know. So like they know they're being watched and stuff, but it's not enough.
Yeah,
I'm going to add.
Sounds really, really good. So if you were talking to a new writer or somebody who was new to self-publishing even, or any of that, what are your biggest tips for people starting out?
Okay, well, just write as much as general. I mean, I think that even sorry, I'm echoing.
That's okay. I can't hear you echoing.
Yeah. So I think, yes, write as much as you can. Like, I find even writing for clients, even when a blog post on 10 must visit big destination or something like that, it just still is good practice. You know, you'll learn new words. You'll find what works and what doesn't, and then stuff does apply as well, like across different genres. So a lot of like, you know, the show don't tell, which you hear about for novels, for example, is equally true to poetry, to like non-fiction. I mean, even like, as silly as it sounds, like an instruction manual for a washing machine or something, like it helps to have the images and to keep the text light. So it just, you know, so I think just write as much as you can. If you're sort of just writing your first book, I think don't necessarily expect that that's going to get published. Again, you can self-publish it, but even then, you just get better over time. And I think there's like a learning curve where you kind of shoot up towards the beginning. So your first couple of books you write, by the time you finish your second novel, you're going to be really, really good. And your third novel is going to be way better than that first novel. So it can be worth waiting on, and just until you kind of get a bit better. But then after that, I do think you start to then level out. So you are still getting better, but you know, you're not doing that sudden spike up when you first get started. The other thing, make sure you have a publishing team. So if you do self-publish, like, it's not enough just to finish your first draft and get it printed. You're going to want an editor. If you can't afford to pay a professional editor, at the very least, get somebody who likes reading to look over it, and maybe a couple of other people to give it a proofread if you can. You know, you might need somebody to build your website, so you still need to build this like network of people. But at that, especially like graphic design and website, you can probably, you know, get where even if you don't know a web designer, you can reach out to people and say, look, I'm a writer, I'll write you 5,000 words of website copy if you build me a website or something like that. So don't be afraid of the box.
Yeah, and I think there's so much potential now with all the tools online and so many different websites, with things like being able to find other professionals, or, you know, the different ways of building websites. There's just so much we can use, isn't there? It's there's a lot of potential.
As you say, Squarespace will do it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think those are really good tips. Really, really helpful. I agree. Well, that's been fantastic, Dane. Thank you so much. Where can people find you? I'll obviously link below, but where are the best ways for people to find your stuff?
My website is danecobain.com, Cobain. I'm using out from the radio thing. If you go to danecobain.com/Goodreads or /Amazon, that should take you to my author pages there as well. It just redirects you. And then I'm on all the social medias. YouTube, obviously, youtube.com/Dane Cobain. Twitter's Dane Cobain. Instagram. And Facebook is /Dane Cobain Music, because /Dane Cobain is my personal page.
Right, okay. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll link all of that below. And yeah, thanks. Take care.